Um, the Americans, the B'nai B'rith American Civic Citation, B'nai B'rith Americanism Citation for Meritorious Service. This was the greatest thing that we ever did. We received more publicity, more honors for our activity in awarding this award every year. Let me tell you what it is. Uh, we compiled a list of, I don't know, 35, 40 members, not members, men in Omaha who were outstanding civic leaders. And it was a list that was helped prepared by the Chamber of Commerce. And we, just prior to the affair, maybe 2-3 months before the affair, we'd send those men a letter asking for their recommendation, their suggestion as to who should be elected that year for the American Citation Award. You follow me on that? We had this list of outstanding people, and they would vote. So maybe out of the 35 or 40, maybe 75 or 80% would answer. So, well, the year I was chairman, this had the acceptance. This luncheon had the acceptance of everybody. We used to fill that Fontenelle Hotel. You know, all the business people or all the leaders of the community were downtown, so we had it at the always at Fontenelle. One year we had it at the Paxton. I remember that was the year Harry Collick was chairman. He was chairman the year that they honored Robert Storrs. Anyway, we'd have 350, 400 people, and there was people, like I remember Morris Jacobs would send me a letter saying that we had selected we'd selected Clarence Land, and he sent me a letter congratulating us on the selection that we had made. Everybody thought this was the greatest thing, and it had the acceptance of all the Gentile people. Well, it wasn't restricted to Gentiles, because we honored Morris Jacobs, we honored Sam Greenberg, we honored who else was in the Jewish people? I think there was 3 Jews that would receive the award, and you want to know something? This luncheon helped our stag, because they B'nai B'rith. Oh yeah, I received the B'nai B'rith award. I'm going to the stag. It was an unbelievable affair. You can see from the program the type of people that we had, and Dr. Abe Greenberg was always the Toastmaster, and they did a terrific job. And you've got to remember one of several things. Good things don't come easy. There's a lot of work involved in those, but it pays off. It pays off. Then, you know, the uh, the people, after the luncheon that was over, or in the following days, people used to write letters of congratulation to the recipient. So we made an arrangement that maybe 6 months later, after the luncheon, we would come to his office and gather all the congratulatory letters that he had received, or all the good things he had received, and we prepared a very elaborate scrapbook. That was one of Harry Collick's jobs. He would prepare a scrapbook, which we presented to that recipient the following year, when the past recipient always introduced the new recipient, and we would then give him the scrapbook. And it was the most highly thought of. There was only one honor in Omaha that they could receive, for which they had more respect for, and that was King of Exarban. I remember walking into Clarence Landon's office when he was on where Nebraska Furniture is now. That was his office. And I see, I was looking around. The reason I was there, I was in the liquor store on 72nd and Dodge, and he was a customer. And my delivery man didn't show up that day, so I had to make the delivery. So I walked into his office, and he didn't know I was coming. So he says, he looked up and he says, "You know something, Ruben? He was a former King of Exarban also. That's the only award that I have hanging in my office." So that's the feeling that they had for this, and it did a world of good for B'nai B'rith. And I remember an incident though. The year we honored Father Reiners, president of Creighton University, I was not chairman, but I was assisting the chairman. I forgot who he was. And I went to his office a few months later to get the congratulatory letters. There was one letter. It was written by a dentist in Omaha, a Catholic dentist. I think his name was Mueller, if I'm not mistaken. Does that ring a member? He wrote to Reinhardt, and he says to him, "All you have to do now is go to Dr. So-and-so and have a hook put on your nose." So, I didn't put that in the scrapbook. That was destroyed, but that was an incident. Well, I think that covers my notes pretty well.
If I ask you, in your 58 years of being a member of B'nai B'rith, what has B'nai B'rith meant to you as a member?
Well, you know, in the days back, it was the orphanages in, where was it, Cleveland, there was an orphanage, there was the hospitals in Denver, there was the Anti-Defamation League, there was the BBYO, there was a jillion recipients, and I just felt that it was good for the Jewish people. You know, Ben will tell you about this because he's seen my literature. I've been a liberator of a concentration camp, and I saw how the Jews were mistreated. I saw the bodies stacked up like cordwood. I saw the skin and bones of people. There were 18,000 survivors. And that always has been on my mind. May 4th, this coming May 4th, will be the 59th year that I always remember the Jewish people, how they suffered at that time. And that's the reason that I felt that, now you want to know something? I have never joined the Jewish Veterans Organization because I always felt that the American Legion was sufficient. I never did join it, but I did join the B'nai B'rith immediately because I had a feeling for the Jewish people. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes.
I have two questions. You didn't mention the bowling league.
The bowling league was one of the biggest things. Believe me, of course, we have to consider this. Bowling is not the sport that it used to be years ago. Everybody was bowling years ago. So we had members. We restricted to players in the league had to be a B'nai B'rith member. So in order to be in the bowling league, he had to be a member of B'nai B'rith. And getting off of that point just for a quick second, the activities that the present administration is having is not restricting it to B'nai B'rith members. Even this Bibles tournament that you're going to have shortly, somebody should be, one of the questions that they ought to answer or a questionnaire to fill out is your father or some member of your family a member of B'nai B'rith. Make it an organization that they want to attend, they want to be a member of, and not to have to be a member of. Well, anyway, the bowling team was successful. I don't know. The only problem they had is that the alleys didn't like to have B'nai B'rith. They had to occupy two alleys. They didn't like the B'nai B'rith tournament. They took it if they had room, because the Jewish members were not drinking enough for them. They were dependent upon the bar business, and they didn't. And then we'd have a convention, B'nai B'rith, the bowling tournament, district bowling tournament. It was a couple of years ago. It was on 2 years that I can remember. It was unbelievable, the activities that went on. They had parties for them. They had you have to, Rick, you have to remember this. You have to do something for the local people.
My other question is, did you have any joint activities with the lodge across the river, the Irving Cohen B'nai B'rith Lodge?
No, when did they? There used to be a South Omaha Lodge, and it met in the old that synagogue in South Omaha. I remember Maury Franklin
Well,
was
then
the
merged into Henry Munson.
huh?
South Omaha Lodge merged into
Yeah,
Henry
and
Munson.
then they merged with with Henry Monsky, and eventually, of course, in later years, Cornhusker. I don't know exactly what was the outcome of what's the name?
Irving Cohen, Lieutenant Irving Cohen.
Yeah. I received this in the mail a few days ago. Can you tell me what you are accomplishing with this? You're giving a few $100 to some charity. Give it to them. But what? This is not going to bring you any members.
I think the purpose is to keep the kids into their Judaism.
Is what?
To keep the kids more into their Judaism, get them studying a little bit, reading a little bit.
Well, the expression "a risk of orphan gelt." That's the way I feel about it. It's ridiculous. You've got to do something. You may laugh at that Valentine's party or a New Year's party, but it brought the people together, and they enjoyed. There was something to do. Those parties that we had in the park. Well, has it been how long have we been? An hour and 15 minutes. It's been boring.
No.
I hope. Really, I'm. I had a conversation with my son, Mark. Ben lives in has a one-bedroom apartment in the same complex as we have. So he comes over there and has dinner with us every evening. So I've always paid his dues. I always send in a check. In fact, let me ask you something, Alvin. There's 50. Ed Rosen once told me that 50-year members don't have to pay dues.
I think that has gone by the wayside.
Well, I'm not trying to get
I
out
know
of it
that.
because I send it in anyway. I send in mine and I send in Mark's. So I had a conversation. I made some, I'm 86 years old and my health isn't too good. We know we have to go. I think I've lived a good life. And so anyway, I told Mark, I says, I pay your B'nai B'rith dues, but you have to promise me one thing. You're going to continue as a B'nai B'rith member when I'm gone. He says, I will, Dad. Okay. And I don't know what else I can say.
I just want to say, you mentioned being a liberator.
Huh?
You mentioned being a liberator, and this weekend is Yom HaShoah, and I think I recall seeing you in Lincoln 2 or 3 years ago representing the liberators.
I was supposed to be the Liberator spokesman one year, and would you believe the night of the affair, I was in the hospital, so I couldn't make an appearance.
What camp did you liberate?
I should have brought some of that stuff with me. The name of the camp was Gunkerschen. It was located Wales, outside a little town in Austria called Wales, Austria. Let me get my mind organized. Have you heard of Mauthausen?
Yes.
Mauthausen was a crematorium. And, I've visited all the crematoriums. I was in Dachau a week after the liberation. I've been to Auschwitz, and I've been to Mauthausen. Well, Mauthausen was a quarry, a huge quarry, and they had up on the high ground, they had this concentration camp at which they had the crematorium. The towards the end of the war, they heard, it was late in April, they heard that the Russians were on their way towards Mauthausen. So they had 100,000 inmates, or whatever you want to call them, and they decided to clean them out. So they sent a group to this, it was about 65 miles away. They had to walk to Gunskirchen, which was a series of about 6 log cabins. The I'm trying to, my mind isn't operating too well. Well, anyway, had been during the war, I was communications officer and company commander of headquarters company of the 66th Infantry, the 71st Division. And, but towards the end, I got into a little dispute with the commanding officer. So he sends me back, I guess you would say, to the division headquarters, and I was to be the assistant to the quartermaster general. So this one morning of May 4th, I had certain duties to perform for him. This one morning, he says to me, Colonel Varntarian, he says, "Lippett, I want you to come with me." It was unusual because I had duties to perform, and he says, "I want you to come with me." So we got in this Jeep, and we must have driven about 10, 15 minutes, and I began to smell. Oh, a horrible smell. And I says, "Colonel, what is that?" He says, "We'll see in a minute." So we entered about 3 or 4 minutes later. We're in Gunskirchen. The leading elements had about half an hour prior to that had blown the lock off the locks off the cabin, off of the camp, and I saw, Alvin, I saw things that you never in your life could imagine that people could do to people. They were lying on the ground, emaciated, nothing but skin and bones. And they, on the outskirts of it was a wooded area. On the outskirts, there were bodies were stacked. They didn't even have time to make a mass grave. It was horrible. And in 1995, we had a revisit Europe. The alumni of the 71st Division planned a trip to coincide with the, we moved 1,200 miles in Germany and Austria, France, Germany, and Austria. Of course, it was up and down, so we were revisited. So on May 4th, which was the day that we liberated or released the inmates, we were back for the memorial service. There was an organization in Albany, New York. I showed you that book. They arranged a memorial service. They brought in survivors from United States, Great Britain, Canada, Mexico, Israel, and the mayor of Wales, Austria, got up and made a speech and apologized for everything that happened. And after the service was over, we were walking to our buses, and this man comes up and pats me on the shoulder and puts his arms around me, and he hugs me, and he says, "I want to say thank you for saving my life." I personally didn't save my life, but I was a representative of those that did save his life. He said, I want to thank you for saving my life." We got on the bus, and there was a young woman, I'd say it was 40 or 50, that came on this earth sometime after this war, and she says, got on a loudspeaker on the bus, she says, "I want to thank all you people for saving my father's life, because if you hadn't saved his life, I wouldn't be here today."
I understand your reaction to the camp. What was the reaction of the non-Jewish soldiers with you?
When we got on the trucks, and after the original, the American troops had what they call mobile bakeries. They had bakeries that would move up behind the troops and bake bread for them. And we had white bread. And these Germans would come up to our kitchens and say, "Weiße Brot." You understand? "Weiße Brot." And the non-Jews says, "Go, what was nix Nazi, nix Nazi, nix Nazi." I imagine there were a few soldiers, a few GIs that were glad that what happened to the Jews had their approval, but a majority was very much opposed to the Nazis.